Hekima finish, though. Hekima, continue, please.
No, I don't want. No, that's because you said that.
I mean, I just have a quick. So Tony, just a quick question for you, though, real quick, because I've been listening into Hekima, and again, I'm pro reparations. But Tony, if I heard you correctly, you're saying it's not just the lineage, direct descendants of slavery. It's you mentioned the Wells Fargo thing, modern day redlining, right? It happened during the pandemic. So if you had the power, how would you allocate either funds or what? Again, how do you determine who of the Black community around the whole country, from a week-old baby to 90-year-old man or woman, is eligible?
Yeah, the same way they did the Indians. How the Indians, even to this day, a baby born, how you said, a newborn and stuff like that is allocated monthly checks and different things like that. Like I said, people look at the government, cool. Taxpayers don't want to pay it, cool. You still don't get the same amount of money from all of the businesses and everybody else that they can sue, from the colleges, from the railroads, from the banks, and so on and so on. So the thing is, how would I allocate it and different things like that? A lot of people that came here they're African, then they come over here like, I'm African American. Because you don't have a lot of scammers, dead ass. And the thing is, lineage. Where did you come from? Bloodline, different things. Like my family comes strictly from Louisiana. Every every year we have a family reunion where our family had their shed at where they were slaved at and different things like that. Some people that, and it's not, like I said, it's not just about slaves, because I know a lot of people, when they bring up reparations, the first thing they think about is slaves, but it's that's just a small piece of what happened and different things like that afterwards and stuff like that. But I would say, but to directly answer your question, to how I would allocate it is the lineage. You feel me? Where your lineage come from, different things like that. If you a half person or half breed, different things like that or whatever, you owe a little something, but you're not really owed nothing, because whatever the case can be like, but it would have to go off the lineage. That's how I do it.
Hey, I support Hekima, and whether we disagree, hold on a second. Whether I disagree with Hekima or not, I like to hear from Hekima because I respect him, and I would like to hear what you have to say, Hekima. Please, would
you? You shouldn't have to say that. Everybody else can speak without somebody else.
I'm just saying, though. I don't want you to quiet yourself.
There you go again. I can't speak.
Sean, don't.
That's a cop out, man.
Sean, don't work.
I think it's a cop out, and every time I speak, y'all come off the mic. Like Moose was able to ask a question. Tony answered it for 2 minutes. Nobody interrupted. I said 6 words. 3 people jump off the mic. Then I just started speaking again. Then Sean jump off the mic again. What, how's that a cop out?
He was actually passing the ball, bro.
I get that. That's not the point. Hold on, guys. Yeah. Hold on. Everyone, hold on. Hekima's right. You guys don't seem to respect the fact that he's speaking. When he speaks, you guys just speak all over him. But I don't know what Hekima wants to adjudicate this. Perhaps we should set up a GoFundMe, and we'll call it reparations for Hekima. Go.
I'm not doing reparations. That's not my fight at all. Yeah, y'all get it. I'm just.
Tony. So you mentioned like Native Americans and Indigenous, and you could have treaties. You can advocate for a treaty between Black America and the United States federal government. I would desperately convince you to look into how those treaties have been maintained. I would suggest you take a very deep dive in how the federal government and its interactions with Native American, particularly on reservations, how well life is there. As somebody who has was kind of adopted into one of the tribes in New York and actually lived next to a reservation, I can tell you it's not peaches and cream. I can tell you that this idea that a majority of Black people have, that Native Americans get reparations, they don't. They do not. They don't get a fucking dime. This idea that somehow that the government, they just get to go and have money funneled into their coffers and somehow they're rich, they don't. That doesn't exist. They generated the majority of their wealth off of casinos, tobacco, and gas products by selling them on reservations, basically making them able to do a tax-free, duty-free, whatever you want to call it. So they also do crops. They also do mostly tourism and crafts. They have a large area into that. So a lot what I've heard on this app when they go pro reparations, they'll attack the Native Americans and say this is great. And if you want that kind of relationship, go for it. But I promise you, you will be screaming that it is worse than Jim Crow. I can promise you that.
Well, Brad, I'm gonna tell you this. As me as a friend, as a lot of friends that's Native American, strictly Native American, some have the benefits of what you said, the resorts and different things like that or whatever. And one of my friends named Matt, he actually gets a check from the tribe he's from. Whatever has happened, I didn't ask him long, all these questions and stuff like that. Just like he was brought it up because everyone thinks I'm Native American because the way I look and different things like that. And he was just giving me a rundown like he gets $1,000 check every month, no matter what. He's been getting it ever since he was there. I don't know exactly when.
It doesn't come from the U.S. government. The U.S. government is not giving him.
Hold on, Brad.
Like you cut me off to say that, and then I'm telling you how it really works. You cut me. You interrupted me. And
I'm sorry. I said I'm sorry. I thought you was done.
No, but that's fine. You don't have to argue. I'm just stating fact. That $1,000 that your friend's getting, and all these other incidences and anecdotal stories that will pop up magically in the ether and Clubhouse because someone knows somebody somewhere. I'm telling you now, the U.S. government is not funneling fucking money in like that to be able to give everybody $1,000 a month. That's not happening. That's nowhere is that happening. They do get certain benefits, discounts on colleges, because that in part was part of the agreement and one of the conditions. Native Americans weren't even recognized as American until 1928 after they won their case, after the 14th Amendment was adopted. Because guess what? The 14th Amendment didn't apply to them. They weren't considered citizens of the United States. So this idea that people want to target this group seems really weird and wonky to me. And not that I'm giving them a lot of grace either, because a lot of their bullshit kind of goes through as if there was some mystical spiritual connection with the prairie grasses and the buffalo. But that shit, throwing all that fucking shit aside, most of the people do not know how Native Americans, and there is a famous guy, and his name is escaping me. He went to Congress. He testified before committees. He went around, and he was a Native American, and he told the U.S. government, hey, your Bureau of Indian Affairs, your bureaus that work with us on the treaties, they suck. And I encourage you to actually listen to him about what actually goes on there, how they've gone through periods of starvation. This COVID, Ireland was finally able to pay a debt back to the Cherokee and other tribes because when they were going through their potato famine and their indentured forced servitude and all their bullshit, Native Americans sent money over. Irish people sent $20 million back to them during COVID because the U.S. government didn't send them fucking funds. So I encourage you to stop using Native Americans because they will come on this app and tell you you are not what you just don't know what you're talking about with them.
No, Brad, I ain't getting any detail about what they get. I know people that get it. Like I'm not one of those ones that do all that negativity and all that shit like that, right? One, I understand a person like you have to be persuaded to why someone get it. I'm not one of the ones that says you don't have no right, no business on actually saying who are you to say who gets it and who's not. That's not how you get nothing passed. And I think a lot of people that know reparations don't understand that. Some people like to say, who gives you the right to say no? That does not, that's Brad, a person like you, if someone tells you that, you're gonna say fuck off. You ain't getting shit now. Right or wrong. Huh? You went out. Your phone signed good. DJ, you said what?
No one can tell me to do anything I don't want to anymore.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole point, exactly. So the thing is, you gotta understand if you want reparations to pass, you have to get people on your side to understand the reason why. And I understand that. I probably can't convince you because you headstrong, different things like that. You have your point made up, and I respect it. That's all I can do. At the end of the day, what I'm saying is that we would not be having this conversation right now if stuff was fairly done. And we're not bringing up 100, 200 years ago. We're not saying all that. We're saying even, let's say someone said, fuck reparations after slavery. if black people, our grandmas, you feel me? Not our ancestors, our grandmas had the right to actually go out and actually build generational wealth like your family did, had the option to build generational wealth. I'm not saying you had the generational wealth, but had the option to build it with no red tape or anything like saying you can't do it because you're white. We would not be having this conversation right now. Everybody, if anybody else did, you sound stupid because when I sound stupid, but because everything wasn't paid, but your family had the option to do it. So that's my whole point about it. If you're being stopped from doing something because of your skin tone, different things like that, only thing I'm asking for a person like you is to have a heart to understand it. You don't have to agree with it, but understand why people of the other lineage would say, we want some type of repayment of the things that was owed that was never paid.
Your stance on it. First and foremost, the amazing amount of reparations and the way the conversation steers in the directions is that they believe that America was the chief purveyor of American chattel slavery. It wasn't even far. They weren't even close. You'd have to go to the Caribbean for those, particularly Brazil, because that overwhelmingly had the highest number of slaves. But what I find fascinating and absolutely destructive is the fact that being on slavery and the way that occurred, and I'm ending the slavery part, is no reparations on this app has ever filed a lawsuit in the world court to go after any of the African nations. None. Absolutely none. There is no ask, there is no direct decree to say, hey, can we actually go after the people who actually sold us? Let's start there. Nope, never did it. Jim Crow laws, for those that were directly affected by it, by having to pay a poll tax in order to vote, by having assets and craftsmanship and art and trade and patented inventions stolen from them or just removed by government request or because of the state laws, absolutely we can restore those. And we can actually trace those lineages because we have the documentation on who we stole it from and who their ancestors are or their offspring are. We can go through and restore those. And I would be all for that. Do we have the ability to sit there and correct from World War II and actually pass on when this Democrat Senator Rankin, who got it passed so that the GI benefits would be determined on the state level, and then we're able to deny black people. Yes, we could actually correct that because guess what? We know who fucking served. And we can directly pay those families the compensation that was owed, plus interest if you want to, and plus a penalty for just being fucking a shitty government at that time. I'm okay with that. And we can pay those individuals or those families on a need. We can return artwork. We can actually ask companies saying, hey, technically you never paid this family for a patent. You do need to compensate them for this. You do need to get registered and have that sales. That's an addressing of a grievance and a wrong that has occurred under our judicial system. But the blanket idea that black people should just receive a check based on no characteristic other than a point in history and time when a government was shitty to them, and then it's based on their skin color, is absolutely false. Many people who are black today actually, one very prominent one who was screaming reparations and the black causes that, white people were the greatest oppressor. She actually, her family came on the fucking Mayflower and landed on Plymouth Rock. So that's a little hard for a lot of people to swallow. Hey, the other factor is Kima, you complain when people interrupt you. I didn't land yet. And you keep going further and further down this hole and you start looking at it. You can cite the Homestead Act, you can cite redlining, but what black people do when they talk about reparations is they leave off massive other demographics, such as fucking women, half of the nation. You don't account for the Irish, you don't account for the Jewish, you don't account for the Italians, you don't account for the Polish, you don't account for any of the Asians. We literally had an anti-Asian, anti-China immigration policy, and we made fucking Jim Crow for Asians, and you never hear Asian people speak about it. You never hear it hit the front lines. You never hear them discuss it. And we did fucking horrific shit to them. We did it to a whole bunch of groups. But black people actually make the misnomer of thinking that they can just go, I'm black, I deserve a check for no other reason, and actually cannot apply any context other than we were slaves and we were forced through Jim Crow. That's the only argument you have, and it's not enough.
I just want to say one thing, bro. I just want to say one thing. just to clear some of Brad to talk about go after the African countries. None of the African countries today existed back then. So to talk about going after Nigeria or Ghana or any of the West African countries, it's impossible because they did not exist.